having me. All right, I'm going to go ahead and jump straight into it. Thank you, everybody. I think we have about 17 people on the call right now that I can see. So thank you, everybody, for being on the call today. So you see on your screen here kind of our introduction slide. Like Angela mentioned, we're going to be talking about the entrepreneurial mindset, just some things to consider, maybe some stories along the way, some things people have gone through before. I work for VetBiz. As you can see there, our logo, which operates a Veterans Business Outreach Center, or VBOC, as part of the U.S. Small Business Administration, or SBA. If that's enough acronyms for you, I promise there'll be more acronyms as we go throughout this training. Like any good training, there's plenty of acronyms for you out there. But as you can see on the bottom there, serving veterans and military spouses throughout the region. That's primarily where we live. We serve the veteran population, the actively serving population, military spouses as well, of course, included in that. Anybody in that space that is looking to achieve their entrepreneurship dreams, that's really what we're here to do. We're here to serve you guys. Even if you're on the call today and you're not a veteran, or you're not actively serving, or you're not a military spouse, there's still a lot of good stuff in here. It's not necessarily geared towards veterans. That's just what our organization is geared towards. But at the end, I do have some resources for everybody. So even if you're not a veteran or a military spouse or currently serving, you can access all these resources I'm going to be showing you guys towards the end here. And then, like Angela mentioned right at the top, if you have any questions or comments or just a discussion point, you want to throw something in the chat, please feel free to do that. I'll be checking those kind of as they pop up. I might even ask you guys for some interaction. So feel free to utilize that chat box, have this as interactive as possible for you guys. With that being said, we are scheduled for an hour here. I usually go, a little bit under an hour, and then I leave plenty of time at the end if there are any questions, or you need some clarity on something, or you want a direct link to a resource. There'll definitely be time for that at the end. So let's go ahead and jump straight in. So again, I work for VetBiz, and you can see our mission there. I think it's a really powerful mission, very easy to understand mission statement. Our mission is to impact communities by building strong veteran small businesses. So, while we live in that veteran space, there is an entire entrepreneurial ecosystem out there. And we really think that veterans, military spouses, currently serving individuals, there's no reason why they can't be a big part of that space. And that's what we're here to achieve. So to kind of start things off here, traits of successful entrepreneurs. Now, if I was like physically in front of you guys presenting, this is definitely a point where I'd ask for some participation. So we're going to run through some of these. If you want to put in the chat box, that would I'll also go through those. I'm more than happy to do that. When you guys think of your favorite entrepreneurs, whether that's somebody on Shark Tank that you look up to and you watch that TV show, or just a mentor or a LinkedIn colleague, or an influencer, somebody like that that's in the entrepreneurship space that you look up to, and you kind of take some things, put them into your toolbox from. What are some of those traits, skills, attributes that you guys think of? Feel free to put those in the chat box. I'm going to run through a few of them here. So we got problem solver, team management, definitely, values others, being resilient, being reliable. And I see some in the chat box here, so I'm going to definitely check those out real quick. Jeff said creative. Staniel said risk takers, definitely. Inspirational speaker, I see that one as well. Independent, ambitious. All of those traits, skills, and attributes. Enthusiasms, yeah, they're still popping in here. Thank you for your participation, guys. So you see all those different traits, skills, attributes when we think of people we look up to in the entrepreneurship space. If you did a moral kind of inventory of yourself, which is something we don't often do, preserving, yeah, being able to be resilient, that's definitely one of them as well. If you were to do an inventory of yourself and just think about those traits, skills, and attributes, or think about it this way. If you were going for, let's just say you're on a job search today. One of the big things about a job search is obviously you have to have a resume. You have to have a professional resume put together. And one of the things that usually goes with that is going to be professional references as well. So if you were to go for that job, be seriously considered for that job that you really want, they're probably going to call on those professional references, kind of get a snapshot of who you are as an individual and what traits, skills, and attributes you bring to the table. A lot of those traits, skills, and attributes that your professional references would name would probably be some of the ones that you're putting in the chat box today, or some of the ones that we have on the screen today. So don't sell yourself short. Make sure you're doing that individual kind of audit of yourself, reminding yourself that you have the capacity and you have the ability to be successful. It's just kind of how we go about things. You know, it's not a one size fits all for everybody. You've dealt with all these traits, skills, and attributes before, so they transfer over to entrepreneurship. There's no reason why you can't be successful. And then we think about that, again, I'm in the kind of the veterans entrepreneurship space, but so these are some statistics that speak to that trend that we're kind of building on here. Veterans own about 9.1%. That's 2.5 million total of the small businesses in the United States. So if you really think about that stat and you really start breaking that down a little bit further, you can see some statistics out there. I've seen some varied numbers, anywhere from 2% to 6% of the population currently in the United States are veterans or identify as veterans. So the fact that only 2% to 6% of the entire population are veterans, and almost 10% of all small businesses are owned by veterans, that really shows you that there's a trend there. There's a pattern for that trend. Now, the one thing I do like to note with this is don't get the idea, I mean, some people do get this idea that just because you're a veteran or you're actively serving or you're a military spouse kind of going for your entrepreneurship dreams, that you're automatically going to be successful. You know, you still have to roll your sleeves up and do the work, but having that baseline trait, skills, attributes, all those good things that you were looking for to set yourself apart and give yourself a leg up on the competition, you know, that's a really good start. But then from there, we also have to think about rolling up our sleeves and doing the work just like everybody else. So key question here. Oops, let me go back real quick. Key question to ask yourselves today, and there's going to be some different questions and scenarios we kind of run through here, but this is a huge one. And this is one we ask at the very beginning of the process. Anytime we're talking to a client or a prospective client or somebody that's just, you know, looking to bounce ideas off somebody. You know, we do different classes around military posts and things like that. This is a question I always kind of reiterate to people and always ask people. Are you looking to get into business or are you looking to stay in business? Now, that might sound like a simple question, a simple answer, but if we actually think about that and break that down, you know, that's a really important question to sort of inventory yourself. It's really easy to start a business, honestly. Anybody could go on the Secretary of State's website today and file your paperwork for an LLC or an S corporation, or even easier, being a sole proprietor. If you just start doing business today, if I start, let's say, for example, selling t-shirts online through Etsy as a third-party seller, and I'm just selling my t-shirts that I produce online direct to the consumer, under the eyes of the law, when I bring money into my business by selling my t-shirts, I am considered a sole proprietor. So really, you don't have to even file any paperwork to get into business technically. But if you're looking to stay in business and build something sustainable, now that's a completely different question that you kind of need to sort of go through an inventory of yourself and what your individual goals are. So that's a big question I want all of you to think about right at the very beginning here. And next up, we're going to think about that again, those personalized goals. Every person has different goals and reasons for getting into business. We have clients that, you know, started out as just wanting to put food on the table. You know, I just want to put food on the table, be my own boss. I've been in the military for a while now, and I'm kind of sick of having people tell me what to do, or, you know, having to listen to other people all the time. I'm done with that portion of my life. I want to be my own boss now, build something for myself from the ground up. And they're just looking to get into business and put food on the table, maybe at some point have a couple employees, but nothing too crazy. Not looking to be the next Jeff Bezos. And then we've got people that they've got big dreams. They're looking to be the next big entrepreneur, you know, build something that's really, really big start scaling it, start having a lot of employees. So there's different ways, different reasons for getting into business. Just ask yourself the question, and that can help us kind of serve you best. Small business is not a one size fits all answer. And unfortunately, in some of the classes like this, when we get questions, it's really, the answer is usually, it depends, right? Because not everybody has the same goal, the same reason, the same challenges facing. That's going to be the person to the right and left of you. It's going to be completely different for everybody. So just think about your individual goals. And then I've even had people, kind of mention to me that I'm just looking to run my own business and I'm going to be the only one doing it. So I really don't need a business plan. When we start actually thinking about business plans, which is a little bit further down the line, I don't need a business plan. Well, I mean, that I would always recommend that you go into anything with a solid plan. You know what your personal goals are. So if the worst case scenario happens, you can be prepared for that. Let me see, we had a few things in the chat box here. Okay, that's from Angela. Perfect. So actually talking about, there's a couple different mindsets we're going to focus on, two main mindsets we're going to focus on today, and then kind of throw some scenarios and perspectives and questions at you, just like we were doing at the very beginning. So first is the fixed mindset. Overall talent and intelligence are predetermined. Those are fixed mindset, might avoid going outside the box. So they do what's comfortable to them. At the end of the day, those in the fixed mindset, they're not really going to straggle too far to the left and right. They know how to do something. They know how to do it well. They don't really like a lot of feedback from other people on how to do it. It's just what they do. They know how to do it and they're going to do it. Could view temporary setbacks as permanent roadblocks. So how do you deal with adversity? Those are the fixed mindset. It may be a little bit tougher for them to overcome and adapt through adversity. Something we're all still going through today after almost 2 years. COVID-19. A lot of things came with that. A lot of small businesses weren't able to adjust or didn't want to adjust. And unfortunately, they kind of fell by the wayside. But, there's always a pro and a con to everything. There's also pros that businesses were able to respond, maybe switch their business model, the way they were doing things, come up with a new revenue stream, something people didn't necessarily know they needed before COVID-19, like in-home care facilities, cleaning, all those sorts of things. Have been able to grow through that. So just being able to be resilient and view success of others as a threat instead of a challenge. That's kind of what the fixed mindset is all about, what the fixed mindset kind of centers around. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, we have the growth mindset. So anything can be mastered with practice and effort. I don't know if anybody's ever heard the 10,000 hours rule. There's people that agree with it, people that don't agree with it. I just think it's a good kind of rule of thumb to at least think about. The essence of it is if you do something, a skill or a trade, or you do, woodworking, whatever you're doing as an individual or for your business, if you do that for a long amount of time, like 10,000 hours is kind of the baseline that a lot of people use, you're going to become a master at that craft, a master of what you do. So with practice and effort, let's say something is completely foreign to you today. Like you're just not good with technology or whatever you're not good at, you don't feel comfortable doing. If you did it for 10,000 hours, you would become a master at that. That's really where the growth mindset lives. Views mistakes as opportunities to learn and grow. So again, going back to how do you deal with setbacks? Those are the growth mindset would see a roadblock as more temporary. Okay, something happened, something popped up that I didn't expect to happen or didn't expect to pop out. How do I adjust? How do I go around that to continue to move forward? So that's really where the growth mindset lives. Willing to accept risks and possible failures when necessary. Nobody's perfect. And a big part of the growth mindset as well, I really like this saying, know what you don't know. So if I'm really, let's say I'm the CEO of a let's just go back to IT, or let's just use IT. I'm the CEO of an IT company. I'm really good at the day-to-day stuff, but maybe like the back-end booking and customer service aspect, I'm not really good at. So I know what I don't know. I'm not really good at that, for example. So I hire somebody who is, and I get out of their way. That's kind of where the growth mindset lives again. Constructive criticism is an opportunity to grow. So if somebody gives you criticism, or a customer, let's say you're doing a focus group and a customer or a group of customers kind of give you the same feedback, it's easy to say, hey, these guys don't know what they're talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about with my product or my service. But if your customers are telling you otherwise, you may be able to take that in, digest it, actually live with it for a little bit, and then come up with a solution. So again, this is a good way to get you guys involved here as we're going through this. What are the biggest reasons why small businesses fail? There's numerous statistics out there, articles, dissertations, all these sorts of things written about the failure rates of small business. And risk taker was mentioned earlier as a trait of entrepreneurs. So, there is a risk, of course, associated with running your own company or running your own business, starting your own business. There's always going to be risk associated with that. Even if you're the most prepared person in the world, there's going to be things that pop up that you can't predict for, and there's going to be risk associated with that. So what do you guys think? Let me see some things in the chat box answering that question. What are the biggest reasons why small businesses fail, or why companies don't live past that, let's say, 2 to 5 year mark? Kind of wait for a couple answers on that. Let's see if we got anything in the chat box here. Okay. Lack of marketing. I saw that one in the chat box. Yeah, definitely. Not giving enough time towards the business, not sustainable. Yeah, I like all those answers. People don't realize that they have to be a manager in addition to a technician. Yeah, exactly. I really like that, Mandy. And lack of knowledge on how to run a business. Yeah, so baseline knowledge. I hope that's, kind of why you guys are going through some of these webinars over this week as well. Failure to plan for contingencies, definitely. One bad moment might be too discouraging. Going back to the mindset, if you're in that fixed mindset, if somebody gives you some feedback, I do like that, Kay, you may not be able to get past that. May find it really discouraging. Afraid to take the next step for fear of failure, bad customer service, office management, yeah, and wrong business. Yeah, it could be the wrong field for you. Some people go down that road and they discover that. But really, to put all those things into a couple points here and to simplify it, there's a few things we have to consider. Poor planning. So really all the things you guys were mentioning there could definitely be put into that package of poor planning. And then cash flow challenges as well. The biggest reason why companies fail to launch at the very beginning, and then actually grow beyond that when they actually are able to launch, is cash flow. And a lot of that goes back to the poor planning. Maybe you didn't have a business plan. I'm Army veteran myself, so I did about 8 years in the Army, just finished up last year. And I teach classes at military posts now. That's a big part of what I do. Transitioning service members are eligible for a few transition classes, and we teach one of those classes. But a lot of military posts, they're kind of similar in the fact that, like Fort Leonard Wood, for example, I was stationed at Fort Leonard Wood for about 3 years. They call it Fort Lost in the Woods because it's basically in the middle of nowhere, Missouri. But there's demand for certain businesses, and there's dollars to be spent there because there's a lot of military members stationed there. So there's businesses that pop up all the time. But I think back to all the different military posts I've been to and visited, and you drive down to the main post gate, and a lot of the times they're very similar in the fact that there's strip malls on each side, a couple miles prior to getting to that main gate. And a lot of them are either empty, or they have a franchise, like let's say a Subway in there, or a couple restaurants, kind of restaurant franchises all around them. And then you'll see, for example, like a bar and grill, a spot where a bar and grill is a locally owned bar and grill. And then you drive by 4 or 5 months later, that bar and grill is no longer there. And it's replaced in 2 months again by another bar and grill. And then the same kind of cycle keeps repeating over and over. A lot of that is due, in my mind, to poor planning. They didn't consider the market. They just thought, okay, I'm a transitioning service member. I've got a little nest egg for some deployments I went to, some tax-free money that I've saved up over the years. I want to start my own business. I want to start a bar and grill. Soldiers like to eat and drink, right? So if I put my bar and grill close to a military post, they're automatically going to flock to me because I know a few people on the post. I'm going to get good word of mouth. and soldiers like to eat and drink at the end of the day. So they're going to come straight to me, right? And I'm going to be a successful business owner. And at some point, I'm going to hire a general manager and I won't even have to be there. That's kind of the dream, a lot of these people may have. But when they actually start running the business, it's a lot more complicated than that. There's brand loyalty involved with a lot of the franchises that are already there. Maybe the market really isn't there like they thought it was. Soldiers might not want to eat and drink 2 miles away from where they go to work. They might want to go a little bit further out to an outskirt town, or, maybe drink or eat at their house. So you have to consider a lot of different things and plan for all its contingencies right from the very beginning. Oh, thank you for saying that, Kay. So it all goes back to planning and poor cash flow, which goes back to planning as well. Developing a strategy. I always think about this. This is a huge, easy to understand statement for everybody on the call here today. You have to know the rules of the game before you play the game. You at least want to understand the game that you're playing. The game of small business, for example, you want to know the rules associated with that. The walk, crawl, run philosophy. I wouldn't expect, people, I always tell people this, people win the lottery all the time. It happens all the time. You see the stories about once a year of somebody hitting the Mega Millions, Powerball, whatever the case may be. But is that a solid retirement strategy to play the lottery? Not exactly. So, you need to have a game plan. And if you win the lottery, all props to you. If you become a very successful business without any planning, all props to you. But that's definitely the exception and not the rule. So we need to have a strategy. We need to understand the rules of the game from the very beginning that we're playing to be successful as possible. So the walk, crawl, run philosophy, you guys are learning something new, hopefully over this webinar and other webinars you're attending this week. So that's the walking stage. And then the crawl stage would be some action items I'm going to give you today. And then the run stage, when you are off and running, you're running your own business, or you've got some strategies to take back with you if you're already operating your business, and some things to consider moving forward. So before you invest your time, your cash, all those important things you want to consider. So talking about due diligence, that's really what the essence of these initial conversations and these initial thoughts are about. We want to do as much due diligence as we can, as much planning as we can to mitigate our risk as much as possible. So the risk is never going to be zero. Unfortunately, I wish I could tell you entrepreneurship is completely risk-free. If it was, everybody would be doing it because everybody wants to be their own boss. But unfortunately, you can't get to zero risk, but there are definitely ways you can mitigate your risk as much as possible. Market research, which I mentioned earlier, that plays into that first bullet there. Identify exactly who your ideal customer is. If I ask somebody on the road or somebody that signs up as a client of ours, or somebody going through a boots to business class on the military post, who's your target customer? And if that person, that individual tells me everybody is my target customer, that's a wrong answer. We need to think a little bit beyond that. It's okay to sell to everybody. I don't want anybody to think we're going to turn any business away. If somebody's going to give you money for your product, your service, you're definitely going to sell to them. But we need to understand exactly who my ideal target customer is. Think like a big business. Let's think of Walmart, for example. Walmart doesn't go out and see an open plot of land in the middle of nowhere and just say, this looks like a good space for a Walmart. They're not doing that. They're not just saying, okay, this open field looks like a good space for Walmart. People are going to drive to this area and they're going to shop at Walmart. No, they don't do that. They do a lot of background research to identify exactly where the ideal place to put their next Walmart store is. Well, they'll maximize their customer base, and that customer base will spend the most amount of money in that Walmart. That is what Walmart does. That's what all big companies do. They spend a lot of time on the front end doing that research. So there's no reason why you shouldn't. They've been successful over time. So follow their game plan, follow their resources. You're not going to have the same resources that a Walmart or an Amazon or anybody like that does, but use what you have and use the lessons that they're passing down. They've been successful and they've been proven out over time. How many customers are in your area? So again, that goes back to market research, and that's something we can definitely help you through. I'll show you some resources here at the end that can help you through that process. At what price are they willing to pay? Your customers dictate your price. Your customers dictate your pricing model. Let's think about an extreme example is like if you go to a concert or a sporting game, football, basketball, baseball, whatever sport you like. If you go to a movie theater, that's kind of in the same vein. They charge a lot more at those events, at those specialty events for their water and for their bottled water, for their beer, for their nachos, for their hot dogs, all those kinds of things, because they've decided over time, customers that come to this sporting event or come to this concert or come to this movie theater are willing to pay $8 for a hot dog. They might not be willing to do that everywhere, but when they come here, they're willing to do that. So we're going to charge $8 for a hot dog. Some people aren't going to be willing to pay that, but there's enough customers who will pay $8 for a hot dog to make it well worth our time. So that's kind of a big snapshot of how pricing works. But that's a conversation we can get into further, and we can honestly spend all day doing that. Does your return on investment make sense for you? That's a huge question. I'm going to use an example, a story, of somebody that kind of went through VetBiz services before my time. This was years ago, but if anybody remembers when Sears stores were a thing, when big Sears outlet malls, sometimes they were attached to the malls, were a thing. And you would drive by the Sears store. They usually had a plot outside where you could see it from the highway or the main road you were driving down. And on the side, they would have like a lawnmower repair service. They would have a little section of Sears that was specifically for lawnmower repair, small engine repair, that kind of thing. So there was a gentleman that came to VetBiz for the services, and he was looking to get some consulting, looking to start up his own lawnmower repair service, and kind of went through some of the background research. They decided that Sears was charging about anywhere from $60 to $80 per lawnmower repair on average. So his idea, his business model was he was going to undercut Sears at their price. So Sears is charging $60 to $80. He's going to charge 30. So he's going to charge half their price. And there's no reason why customers wouldn't flock to him, because he's going to be doing just, the same amount of work for half the price. Well, what could be a potential problem with that? Well, the biggest problem is that even giving him any return on his investment? So the process was, he sat down with the business counselor. They kind of went through some equations and some math, and they decided with the parts included, with his labor included, and the lifestyle he wanted to live, all those things taken into account, it was going to cost him on average about $22 per lawnmower repair to provide that service to his customer. So if he's only charging $30 for that service and it cost him $22 out of pocket, he's making about $8 on average in margin per lawnmower repair he does. And then what you have to do from there is decide, okay, well, that's not sustainable in any way. We all kind of know that. But if you even want to dig into that further, they kind of had a conversation about what kind of lifestyle does he want to live? Well, he didn't want to live anything exorbitant, but he wanted to have his house and his car, little creature features that we're all used to. Nothing crazy, but he wanted to have that same lifestyle that he was already living with his own business. Well, the problem with that is with his $8 margin per lawnmower repair, they did the math and they decided he would have to do about 37 lawnmower repairs per day to even keep up with the lifestyle at the bare minimum that he wanted to live. Is that sustainable in any way for one person to do 37 lawnmower repairs per day and never take a break, never take a vacation, all those kinds of things? And then on top of that, have 37 customers every single day in the Midwest when it's very seasonal come to you for the lawnmower repair. That's not sustainable in any way. So that's kind of a conversation, just an example of a conversation that you want to ask either a business counselor or yourself. Does the return on investment make sense for you and what lifestyle you're trying to live? Can I say burnout? Yeah, burnout definitely. If you never took a day off and you were doing 37 lawnmower repairs per day. Really what happened at the end of that conversation was, they kind of went through the numbers. They explained it to each other. The business counselor explained it to him, and, it just didn't make sense. You're going to burn out. There's no way one person can do 37 lawnmower repairs per day. He said, at the most, he could probably do 3. If there's really easy repairs, 3 or 4 a day. So it just made no sense. He kind of went in a different route. but I'd rather have somebody do that instead of throwing all their savings and all their money and all their time at something and having it, just be something that makes no sense for them. So due diligence to mitigate risk, that's a big story, but I like to share that with people. So let me go back here. Every business should have a bail team on their side. This is definitely something we encourage in all of our classes, and we kind of mention it to all of our clients as well from the very beginning. Here's an acronym for you. I told you there'd be more acronyms. I'm promising you there will be more after this, but this is one you might want to take down if you're taking notes at all, or just mental snapshot in your head, something to consider for later. The bail team. And this is something from the very beginning I would recommend to all small business owners to have a relationship with these people that you see here. So bankers, accountants, insurance agents, and lawyers. At a bare minimum, have a relationship with these kinds of people, because if something happens in your small business, you don't want to be running around like a chicken with your head cut off. If somebody sues you for any reason, it's America. People file lawsuits all the time. So instead of running around trying to find a business lawyer really quick to represent you, if you already have an established relationship with one, that can save you sleep. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. That's an easy way to understand it. Just protect yourself as much as possible. So let's walk through each of these very, very quick best practices for each of these bankers. For small business owners, I'd always recommend having a relationship with a local banker or a community bank. You can go with whatever bank you want. Everybody has their own path in life. I'm not here to represent anybody or say anything about anybody else, but just starting with a local community bank, a local banker. Okay, I'll get to your question in just a second. If you started with a local community bank or a local banker, it's just really good to have that face-to-face relationship. I've even heard of some of our clients that run small businesses. They've been proven out over time to pay their bank loans back. And if they ever apply for a bank loan and they get approved, the banker brings it directly to their door. So they don't even have to leave. They get that check brought directly to them and they can use it for their small business. So it's just easier that way, as opposed to, going out to like a bigger bank, like a Wells Fargo, for example. I'm not saying you can't get a small business loan from a Wells Fargo, because they do small business loans all the time, but you just might not get as much personalized service as you may want or need. So that's my kind of spiel on bankers. Accountants. Yeah, and Kay, to your question, I think here, when you say established relationship, does that mean a retainer fee? So the big question that comes, and that Kay was kind of alluding to there with accountants and lawyers, is they're expensive. Their services can be expensive. I'm not here to tell you any different. They definitely can be expensive. But that's when I would say established relationship to me would be more like a lawyer, for example. You can sit down with a business lawyer and have that initial conversation, kind of that feeling out process on both ends for free. They're not going to charge for that initial meeting when you set that up. It's not going to be a whole hour, but you'll probably have, 15, 30 minutes at the most to kind of sit down, tell them what you do, and then they can give you some general advice, general best practices. And at the end of the day, it might not make sense for you to pay them a retainer every month. But you have that established relationship now. If I feel like, let's just say, for example, Mr. John Smith is a lawyer, and I have a sit-down conversation with him. Hey, my name's Mitch Fitzpatrick. I'm starting out a small business on my own for the very first time. I'm in the t-shirt industry. I used that example earlier. I'm in the t-shirt industry. I just want to know, do you have any specific things I should be looking out for? Do you have any clients in the t-shirt industry? Those are the questions I'm kind of asking the lawyer. And then we have a conversation. And at the end of the day, I hope it's a good fit. If it's a good fit, we shake hands, I grab their card, and I have that relationship now. I'm not paying them every month, because I might not necessarily need a lawyer every month for my t-shirt business. But if something does happen or I have a question, now I've got that established relationship already. I've already talked to them, and I can call on them if something pops up, or if I need a contract written up, or them to look over a supplier agreement, all those kinds of things. I have that relationship established now. I'm not starting from scratch, going on Google like we all do. That's the first thing we all do. We can admit that. Go on Google and search out a lawyer and try to find one that's right for you. You already have that relationship established. So I hope that answers your question. Same thing with accountants. Having an established relationship, even if you do your own books, It may be fruitful for you to have an accountant that you at least have a relationship with if something does happen or there's a question you cannot answer. And with accountants, just keep in mind, if I'm running my small business and I come to an accounting firm 2 months before tax time and I bring them a box of receipts and say, hey, can you sort this out for me? They're going to take my business, probably, as long as they're not too swamped. But am I going to get the best service going about it that way? Probably not. I might not get as much money back. I might not get as many tax breaks as I should, just because I'm bringing them a box of receipts and telling them to sort it out, as opposed to having a relationship with an accountant already, kind of walking them through what I do and some things that are associated with that. And then if something pops up, I keep them abreast of that throughout the year. So just some things to consider. And then with insurance agents as well, I would say just keep in mind the big thing, the best practice to kind of keep in mind with that is that if you go through a big box insurance agent like a State Farm or Progressive or whatever big box insurance agent you go through, generally they only have one kind of blanket policy that you can't really customize around too much. That might be okay for you, and that you might not need anything specialized, and that's okay with you. But certain industries, you may need something a little more specialized in your policy. So there are insurance brokers and commercial insurance agents out there that can shop around for the best policies for your individual industry or your individual company. So that's just a basic overview of the Bail team. Honestly, there's a lot that goes into these and a lot of best practices and sites and links and things that we can definitely share with you a little bit farther down the line. But hopefully that answered your question, Kay, and you guys kind of got a flavor for that. So an action item for today, if you guys want an action item to work on now, if you're taking notes, I would go back to taking inventory of yourself. So we talked about those traits, skills, attributes. That plays into this action item here. So K, the acronym KSA, write down these for yourself, your individual traits, skills, and attributes that you have. So knowledge is the K, the formal learning. So anything you received a certification for, or a degree, a college degree, a high school, certification, advanced course you went through, anything like that, that would go into the formal learning section. The skills, soft skills, attributes, that goes back to things we were mentioning on that very first slide, like resiliency, mission focus, critical thinker, all those things you guys were putting into the chat box, those traits, skills, and attributes, that goes under the S column. So you guys should have a pretty good idea about those now. And then A, the last one, is abilities. I did not know how to do blank. Now I know how to do blank. At some point in our life, we all learned something new. So that's really what that's about. Even if you think it doesn't apply to your small business or the industry that you're in, go ahead and write it down because it might jog something in your memory. We all learn how to do new things all the time. And I know I am. I'm sure you guys are too. So again, I'm going to wrap things up here with a few slides just on some general resources to get yourself started with, maybe some things you never heard of before. Just speaking to VetBiz specifically and kind of what the V-Box are all about, we're not in the business of hoarding clients. We are just here, we're taxpayer funded, so it's no cost out of pocket for you. You've already paid for it with your tax dollars. We're just here to assist you. We want to make sure that you're as profitable as possible, that you're as successful, and you achieve your small business dreams. That's really what we're here to do. So here are some resources to consider. I'm going to walk through a few of those. You see some different symbols and links here. The first one up that I listed was SCORE, score.org. A lot of what SCORE does is that volunteer mentorship. Maybe some of you have worked with a SCORE mentor before, but essentially the idea of it is it's an organization filled with people that have been there and done that in business, and they're there to assist you. All of these organizations, again, are taxpayer funded that I'm showing you, so it's no cost out of pocket. If you want to talk to all of these individuals or any of these individuals or one or two of them, or reach out to them, it is completely free of charge to you. No reason not to take advantage of these resources. So SCORE is going to be that volunteer kind of mentorship aspect. SBDC, Small Business Development Center, as I listed there, anything small business related from A to Z, the SBDC can assist you with. It could be market research, it could be putting together your first business plan, applying for financing, all those sorts of things you can do at your local SBDC. And I put the SBA.gov local assistance link on there. If you go to that local assistance link, you'll see a drop down when you go to that tab that has all these different resources listed there. You can click on whichever one you're looking for, and you can find the one closest to you. These are all nationwide, so no matter where you're at, you'll have access to these. And Women's Business Center, same idea here, where the VBOCs are centered towards veterans and military spouses. The Women's Business Centers are geared towards women entrepreneurs. So if you would like to take advantage of their services, you can find the one closest to you, go in that local assistance tab on the SBA.gov website and searching out your local Women's Business Center. And then lastly, I did throw in PTAC here. Missouri PTAC, because we're in Missouri. I assume most of you are in Missouri, but even if you're not in Missouri, you can go to that aptacus.org link and you can find the one closest to you, because that's a nationwide organization. Again, anything government contracting related, PTAC can assist you with, whether it's certifications, training, all those kinds of things. Missouri PTAC can assist you, or the PTAC closest to you can assist you. And then last but not least, certainly not least, we've got to talk about ourselves a little bit here. So VetBiz, I kind of give you guys a flavor of what we do at VetBiz. Anything small business related from A to Z that you could possibly need as a veteran, actively serving, military spouse, that's really our mission. We want to build strong veteran small businesses. That's what we're there to do. You see that kind of screenshot of our website. That's our homepage you see in the background there. Easiest way to get started is click on that request consulting icon. It'll take you to a landing page to fill out some of your information so we know how to get in contact with you and kind of what you're looking to get assistance with. And that just really starts the process. So I hope to hear from some of you. And then to sum things up again, vetbiz.com, that's the easiest way to get in contact with our organization, or just reach out to any of the resources that I threw to you guys earlier today on the earlier slides. My email's right there as well, fitzpatrick@vetbiz.com, which is FITZPATRICK@vetbiz.com. My LinkedIn is there as well. If you want to look me up on LinkedIn, copy and paste that. It is MitchFitz91, linkedin.com/in/MitchFitz91, and you'll be able to find me there if you'd like to connect or have any questions, or didn't catch how to grab a resource partner's website, anything like that. I'm more than happy to assist. So I told you I'd be close to an hour. I'm pretty close here. I'll leave the floor open if there are any questions, discussion points, anything you want me to reiterate, or links or anything like that. Now is definitely your time to engage in that chat box and let me know of any questions you guys have. I'll just leave the floor open here. Well, see here. Can I get the PTAC website again? Yeah, Demetrius, I'll go back really quick. And then Kay, I'll come to your question. So Demetrius, it should be on your screen right now. PTAC, that link is right at the very bottom there, aptac-us.org, which is aptac-us.org. And then once you get there, you'll see like there's a lot of different buttons you can request consulting on. So just you can see the services they have, or you can just go straight to those request consulting buttons. And then Kay, I see your question in there. A list of resources be emailed to you as well. The easiest way to get that, if there's one specifically you're looking for, is just, I'm gonna put my email in the chat. Send me an email and let me know what you're looking for, and I can definitely assist you with that, give you some links and some best practices, things like that. So I put that in the chat. And then Mandy, I see you. Do you have any advice or experience for someone wanting to move a service business from one state to another? Is it terribly difficult from a registration legal standpoint? Grain of salt here, because I'm obviously not a lawyer, but from everything I've heard, there are state to state regulations. Some states are more strict with the small business policies they have, things of that nature you definitely want to consider. But if you're physically moving your business from one state to another, I've heard it really isn't that difficult with the Secretary of State's websites being online. But if you ever run into any issues, I would definitely go to that Secretary of State's website first that you're looking to move your business to, because they usually have frequently asked questions and links and resources you can access. But if you have any issues further, you can always reach out to a resource partner or a business lawyer. That'd kind of be your best point of contact for that. But just in general, I would say it's not very difficult. There is another fold in that if you're, let's say I'm doing business in Missouri, my business is physically located in here in St. Louis, Missouri, but I'm doing business across state lines in Illinois because we're obviously pretty close there. I would have to register as a business doing business in Illinois on the Illinois Secretary of State's website. So just make sure that you're doing that. You're on the up and up, protect yourself as much as possible. Lynn, will we be able to watch again? There was a lot of great info. I don't know if a copy, I'll have to ask Angela when we finish up here, if that's going to be sent out or made available to you guys. So we'll definitely ask Angela about that. Thank you, Mandy, again. And Jeff asked, do you know if you can hire employees as a sole proprietor, or do you need to incorporate to do that? You don't have to technically. There's different ways of going about that as a sole proprietor, but any lawyer that's worth their salt, every lawyer I've ever talked to or had presented these different things, they're all going to tell you that forming an LLC or forming an S corporation, one of those two buckets that makes sense for you. There's pros and cons to each, but that's going to make the most sense for a small business owner. LLCs are very easy, protects you, keeps your business assets and your personal assets separate. So there's different ways of going about that. And I'm not here to tell you there's one way of doing things, Jeff. You know, I'm sure you have your own path in life, but lawyers have definitely told me multiple times that it's worth the time, worth the nominal fee that is associated with forming an LLC. And it's relatively pain-free. Thank you, Bill, for those kind words. All right. Thank you, Evelyn, for that as well. Evelyn put in the chat, the other seminars are going to be available on YouTube by the end of this week, which probably means that this one will be available as well. All right. Last call for questions. Thank you, Jeff. Last call for questions, comments, concerns. If not, I'm going to throw it over to Angela here in just a second. But if anybody has anything for me, I'm going to put my email in the chat one more time. If anybody wants to reach out to me directly, feel free to do so. There it is, Fitzpatrick@vetbiz.com. If not, I don't see any more questions, so I'm going to stop sharing here and throw it back over to Angela. Thank you, Evelyn. Angela, if you're there, I'm all wrapped up here. If not, I'll just hang on the line in case anybody has anything for me. Tina, I see your message in there. I don't see your email. It's Fitzpatrick. I'm going to type it one more time into the chat box. Fitzpatrick@vetbiz.com, which is FITZPATRICK @vetbiz, VETBIZ.com. So that's Fitzpatrick@VETBIZ.com. Okay, gotcha, Megan. Yeah, well, Megan, I guess that's all I had. I didn't know if you had any closing comments for the attendees, but I just make sure it's to all panelists. Yeah, good thought there. I'm gonna make it to everyone. See, you guys are teaching me something new every day. Here, let me put that in the chat. Fitzpatrick@vetbiz.com. So everybody should be able to see that now. That's all I had, Megan. I didn't know if you had any closing comments for the group, but I will turn it back over to you guys. All right. Hi, Jennifer, as well. Yeah, just wrapping up here. So they did put some links in the chat to some surveys and things. So you can definitely feel free to grab those. And I hope you guys have a good day. Feel free to reach out to me again, and I will see you guys later.